Now our front door doesn't look so bad, but in the summer it swells to the point where we simply can't use it. And in the winter it seems to let in everything, especially the cold. Well, summer's on its way, but I'm not going to give this door a chance to start sticking again. Instead, I'm going to replace it. Now I want one that looks traditional, but it's energy efficient. So let's jump in. My first step is to remove the wood trim that covers and conceals the edges of the frame. Well, I think that's about all of the exterior trim that I'm going to have to take off. I'm going to go inside now and start to remove some of the casing. Well, our door is just about ready to come out. What's holding it in place right now are several nails that are driven through the frame and into the framing of the house. I'd say there may be a half a dozen or so on each side. I'm going to cut through those using a reciprocating saw, and this blade right here is designed to handle nails. With all the nails cut, the door frame, including the side lights, comes out in one piece. Well, I got the old door out. That wasn't so bad. Now I want to prepare this opening for the new door. What's really important here is that the bottom be level and flat, and that the opening itself be the correct size for the new door. I checked the sill at the bottom, and it's dead on level. The opening itself, though, is a bit too large, so I add strips of plywood to the sides and top to make it slightly smaller. To make sure there's a watertight seal around the door frame, I insert foil tape under the trim above the door, fold it back, and tape it temporarily in place. Next, I apply the adhesive-backed aluminum tape to the sill and run it up the sides a few inches. I cut the corners and fold the tape over the edge. Then put one final strip of metal tape on the top of the sill. Well, everything's well sealed down here against any kind of water intrusion. Now, there are just a couple of things left to do before I actually put the door in. One is to install this sill support. I've made it up from a piece of oak and a piece of angle iron. Here's how it goes in. I position the sill extension on a couple of wood blocks so I can free up my hands. Then drive rust-resistant screws through the angle iron and into the framing of the house. Next, I cover the metal with a strip of cedar trim and nail it in place. Finally, I head out to my truck to pick up my caulking tub. I apply 3 beads of silicone sealant on top of the sill to make sure no moisture will seep under the bottom of the door frame. Well, this is it, one of those moments of truth. Rick, a good friend of mine, has stopped by to give me a hand setting the door and frame in place. It's heavy, but manageable. Now the trick here is to set the bottom in place without dragging it across the beads of sealant. Then tip the door up into position. Now I've just put 2 nails in this door because now I want to go inside, make sure everything is square, plumb, and level, and if necessary, make a couple of adjustments. The sides of the door frame are in fact plumb, or vertical. Now the best way to check for square on an object this large is to measure diagonally from corner to corner and compare the measurements. If they're the same, and in this case they are, then the frame is indeed square. Now I also want to check the margin, that is the gap or space between the edge of the door and the door frame. It should be uniform from the top all the way down to the bottom. In this case, looks really good. But the ultimate test is how well does the door open and close. Let's check it out. Okay, great. So I'm going to go back outside now and finish nailing it off. This door frame, unlike its predecessor, is held in place by this nailing strip or flange. Galvanized roofing nails are used to secure the flange to the framing of the house. Next, I'll need to make the flanges watertight. The top one is covered with the metal tape I put in earlier. Then I add strips of aluminum tape over the side flanges as well. Now it's time to set up for a little woodworking. First, I cut 3 trim pieces to cover the nailing flange on the outside. Then I begin cutting miters on the interior casing. You'll notice I filled the space between the door frame and the rough opening with fiberglass insulation. Well, that finishes the installation of the door. But you know the way I see it? What turns a doorway into a welcoming entryway is great hardware. Now, this is a company that makes really, really nice. So my wife Lynn and I went on the internet and started searching.
It really adds, I think that would really add a lot to the front of our house.
We ended up on the Baldwin Brass site, where we found just what we were looking for.
Oh, I like that.
Well, our hardware has arrived. It looks gorgeous. So I'm going to go ahead and start installing it. Now, our entryway makeover really wouldn't be complete without a little lighting update. A final buffing on the door knocker, the laying out of the welcome mat, and our front door transformation is finished. Welcome, friend. Come in and stay a spell.